So one thing I'm pretty sure every saltwater fish has in common is they all love shrimp. And one of my favorite things to do when surf fishing is fish with artificial lures. In today's video, I'm going to be bringing those two things together and show you how I like to use artificial shrimp to catch fish out on the beach. And we're diving in right now. What's going on, y'all? Tyler here with Tight Lines and High Tide. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm glad you're able to stumble across this video. My goal here at Tight Lines and High Tides is to bring you as much straightforward and valuable content as I can to help you become a better fisherman so you can get more enjoyment out of your time on the water. If you're already subscribed to the channel, welcome back. Be sure to drop us a comment down below or maybe give us a thumbs up to let us know you're still listening. Before we just go through our artificial shrimp out in the water, one thing you need to consider is your surf conditions or your basic conditions for the day. I'm out here in Melbourne, Florida, right outside of Patrick Air Force Base, and today we have a pretty stiff wind going right in our face from east to west. It's about a 10-mile-an-hour wind, so it's not exactly the calmest wind day. Also, you know, the waves aren't awful, but they're also not small, and the current's ripping in pretty well. So if I were to just throw an unweighted or a low weight, maybe quarter ounce or half ounce shrimp out there like this 3.5 inch quarter ounce voodoo shrimp, I were to just throw this out here just like it is, I'm probably not going to do that well, because what's going to happen is the current's going to grab it, it's going to rip the line right back in, and I'm not going to actually be able to retrieve it and put any action on it the way I want to. It's also not going to hang out very long at all in the trough where I need this lure to hang out in that strike zone. So what I'm gonna do is, instead of throwing it just like it is, I'm gonna hook up a Carolina rig configuration. That way I add a little bit more weight to the lure so I can get it out there, keep it in the strike zone longer, and I can still let the bait and the natural design of this shrimp do what it needs to, because there's not a big weight right on the end of it. I'll just go over the general Carolina rig setup. This is the way I do it. I have my braided line hooked onto a fluorocarbon leader with an FG knot, and I'm actually using that leader as the first leader for my Carolina rig. So on this fluorocarbon leader, I hooked a 2 ounce. I have a pretty strong current, pretty stiff waves out there, but I put a 2 ounce lead sinker on there. And on the other side of that, just to protect the knot as much as I possibly can, I put a red bead on here, a glass bead, just to protect that knot on the barrel swivel. Then I have a barrel swivel attached to some 20-pound Suffix monofilament leader, about 18 to, I guess, 20-ish inches of leader line, and then I hook that right to my voodoo shrimp. All right, this is just pre-rigged right out of the bag. And my idea is I'll be able to throw this with the Carolina rig further out there and still let this bait kind of on this line have that natural presentation. As I bounce it across, I can work it up and down and have that natural presentation to try and entice those fish that are cruising in those troughs. So let's go give that a shot. All right, so the first thing I want to do is talk about what kind of action we want to mimic in the water. And so I've got it in really shallow here, but you can see I have my lead at the top of my Carolina rig and the shrimp at the bottom. And what we're doing when we cast it out is we want to bump it across the bottom, and that lead will just move slightly across the water, and that shrimp right behind it will follow, and with the wash of the wind, of the waves and the current, will actually give it quite a bit of action all by itself. So that's what we're trying to mimic out in the water. Now I'm going to show you how I fish with the Carolina rig with the artificial shrimp. So all I'm going to do is cast out my Carolina rig. And you can see I get some pretty good distance, where normally if I didn't have a weight on there, I probably wouldn't go very far at all. And where I'm casting is right in that very first trough that runs parallel with the beachfront here, and that's where most of the fish are cruising up and down. And one of the big things, or two of the big things that you want to concentrate on when fishing is, number one, your time in the strike zone, and number two, your presentation. So what this Carolina rig does is allow us to get out into the deeper waters because we have that extra weight for casting. The extra weight also holds the lure in that strike zone right in the troughs. And also, because of the Carolina rig has that freestanding leader on the back side, the shrimp's able to still move around in a pretty natural fashion. And the way I'm working this in is pretty slow, and I'm just bumping it along the bottom to move it across the sand and across the bottom. And what's happening is that weight is moving along with it, and the shrimp is just following behind it, and the current and the waves are washing it around to give it kind of that more natural presentation. Now, I've heard some people actually say they'll actually just throw a rig out like this with like the voodoo shrimp or the gulp shrimp that has that scent to it, and they'll leave it out there kind of like spike fishing. They won't even reel it back in. They'll just send it out and wait for a fish to come by and bite. You can certainly do that. And we might give that a shot later on, but I really like to work it in more of this kind of more active style fishing. But I'll show you again real quick. All I'm doing, like I said, is casting it out. It goes a good ways out there, right into the trough. Slow retrieve with some small bumps to work it along the bottom all the way back in. As a quick recap, just want to highlight, artificial shrimp is an absolute fantastic lure to fish with, really in any body of water, including the beach. But whenever you're fishing on the beach, the conditions are a little bit tougher. You got wind, you got current, you got waves that might make it difficult to cast low weight lures and have good success. So using something like the Carolina rig with your artificial shrimp is a great way to get more use out of your artificial shrimp. It allows you to cast it out in the surf further. It allows you to hold the bottom a little bit more in those strike zones in the trough. Gives you more time to present that lure to the fish, and the extra motion or the action associated with the Carolina rig, because you have less extra weight right on top of the shrimp, really helps with the presentation. So I highly recommend this rig for surf fishing with artificial out on the beach. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out our other, I have a playlist all about artificial lures when surf fishing. If you've probably watched a lot of my other videos, I really love fishing with artificial lures, so be sure to check out that playlist. And until next time, tight lines, y'all.